Hello, music fans, and Happy New Year. You're watching Death by Unicorn, and if you like metal, rock, and prog music, you're in the right place. So now that 2024 is behind us, I'm making this video on my 20 favorite progressive rock albums of 2024. On this list, I'm not going to include anything that I categorize as progressive metal, as I'm going to talk about those in a separate video. And if you've been following the channel, you might know that I've already put up my top 5 instrumental albums of 2024. I've put up my 5 favorite metalcore albums of 2024, my 5 favorite post-hardcore albums of 2024, my 5 favorite black metal albums of 2024, my 5 favorite jazz fusion / funk albums of 2024. So check those all out on my channel if you like those genres. And I've also put up a couple videos, one where I talk about my favorite rock album of 2024 in 10 different rock subgenres, and another where I talk about my favorite metal album of 2024 in 11 different metal subgenres. So if you like metal and rock music, those videos are on my channel. Definitely go check them out. And without further ado, let's jump in to my top 20. Since I really love prog rock, I made this list bigger. I might even, if you stay to the end, I might even give 10 honorable mentions at the end. So there will be 30 recommendations in this video. At number 20, I've got SJS with A Sequence of Mistakes. And I should say before I go any further that what separates number 20 and number 1 is very paper-thin margin. So almost all of these could be number 1. It's almost like just being on the list is a victory in itself. I just put them in some order. The order could change. They're all just excellent albums. So A Sequence of Mistakes by SJS. This is neo-progressive rock. It's got some jazz fusion, some ambient, some electronic, post-rock, folk, symphonic, and space rock influences. Check out the track Tear Gas featuring Kirsty Foster as a preview. This is the 3rd album by SJS. They're an Australian band. And the frontman, Stuart Stallman, is the main creative force here. He's an English musician, but he currently resides in Australia. And he's got Douglas Skeen from Himina and Anubis, both great bands, working with him. Graham James from Tram Tracks, Christopher Sulos from Espirito, Flatwound, and Masha's Legacy. So he's collaborating with all of them to make this amazing progressive rock album. And it takes inspiration from Anathema to Zappa, from Talk Era Yes through to Spirit of Eden era Talk Talk. That's how he described it. I think it was on his Prog Archives, or maybe it was on his Bandcamp. And this album sounds really beautiful to me. It's very peaceful and serene. It manages to be sad and melancholy, but also uplifting and hopeful at the same time. I think if you're a fan of Mike Oldfield, Yes, and Sigur Rós, you'll like this. It sounds like a combination of those bands to me. And my favorite track is the opening track, Tear Gas, which features excellent female guest vocals by Kirsty Foster, in addition to the vocals by Stuart Stallman. It has odd time signatures, I think 7 at the beginning when I counted, but I think it also changes throughout the song. But it all feels really natural and smooth, even when they change time signatures. The final song, Blue Sky Born, is an over 13-minute prog epic of atmospheric beauty. And that also features Kirsty Foster. And I just think the 2 songs with her vocals are the best on the album. Her vocals are just beautiful. So if you like the sounds of that, check out A Sequence of Mistakes by SJS. At number 19, I've got Kipa with Summer Grinningslus. This is symphonic progressive rock, and check out the song Like Thousand Dawns if you want a preview of this. This is Kipa's 15th album. They're a Swedish band. If you're a fan of Flower Kings, Yes, Genesis, Carphagen, and Is, I think you'll like this. Great keyboards here throughout the whole album. A great mix of female and male vocals throughout the whole album. And the guitar playing on here is just great, just like the keyboard playing. A lot of nice licks on Like Thousand Dawns. Lots of cool odd time signatures used on the album, and the 6-track Spiderweb Train is a prog epic that's 15.5 minutes in length. And so if that sounds good to you, check out Summer Grinningslus by Kipa, and don't ask me how to spell that. Just Google Kipa, K-A-I-P-A. Their album name is in Swedish, and it's hard to say and spell. At number 18, I've got Haven of Echoes with Memento Vivere. This is atmospheric, cinematic, progressive rock with post-rock and even some metal influences thrown in here. Check out the track Assimilation for a preview of this one. This is the second album by Haven of Echoes. They're a German band, and I thought their debut album from 2022, The Indifferent Stars, was also an excellent album just like this. Memento Vivere only has 4 tracks, but it's 48 minutes long. The opening track, Non Sum Non Curo, is a 17-minute prog epic, and the third track, It Walks Among Us, is a 14-minute prog epic. And even though they're a German band, their lyrics are in English. The vocals are fairly high-pitched male vocals, but they're clean, they're catchy, and they're solid. And the whole album has a nice atmosphere, but there are some parts where the guitars get pretty crunchy and it sounds almost like metal without getting too extreme. If that sounds good to you, check out Memento Vivere with Haven of Echoes. At number 17, I have Anubis with The Unforgivable. This is neo-progressive rock with art rock influences. Check out the track Part 2, The Mark of Cain. This is the 7th album by Anubis. They're an Australian band, and each track flows into the next. So it's essentially one long song broken into 10 parts. The whole album's 46 and a half minutes. It's an atmospheric, emotional prog epic, basically, but they subdivided it up so it won't count. And I'm going to make a best epics of 2024 video shortly, but I'm disqualifying the ones where the bands broke up the tracks like this. So, I mean, you could call it one track, but it's really 10 with part 1 through 10. If you're a fan of Pink Floyd, you'll like this. A lot of the guitar leads gave me David Gilmour vibes, but the vocals from Anubis sound like they have a bit more of a modern emo and indie rock vibe for fans of Moneen, Hail the Sun, and The Deer Hunter. They're higher pitched, they're emotional, they pull on your heartstrings. The vocal melodies are catchy. The instrumentation has some tricky bits with time signature changes and cool drumming patterns, but it's not your typical virtuoso, speed shredding kind of prog. It still focuses more on emotion. If you like the sounds of that, check out The Unforgivable by Anubis. And at number 16, I've got Prehistoric Animals with Finding Love in Strange Places. This is progressive rock. It's got some alternative and some metal influences as well. Check out the track City of My Dreams for a preview here. This is the 4th album by Prehistoric Animals, and they're a great Swedish band. This is very catchy. It's very accessible progressive rock music. It has hints of metal, but it never goes full-blown metal, so I'm still categorizing it in the progressive rock genre rather than progressive metal. But I think it will appeal to fans who like the poppier and more accessible tracks by prog metal bands like Tool and Dream Theater. If you basically like their poppiest tracks, take those bands, Tool and Dream Theater, and turn down the metal and turn up the pop. And that's pretty much what this band's Prehistoric Animals, this album sounds like. Songwriting here is great. If that sounds good to you, check out Finding Love in Strange Places by Prehistoric Animals. At number 15, I've got Steve Hackett from Genesis, the mighty Steve Hackett, the guitar player formerly of Genesis, with his album Circus and the Night Whale. This is progressive rock with classical influences. And check out the song People of the Smoke for a preview of this one. This is the legendary guitar player's 28th album. Steve Hackett, of course, is most famous for his time in Genesis. But his guitar playing on this album is great. Lots of cool solos that include finger tapping, whammy bars, slides, bluesy playing. Then he has other guitar parts on the album that are soft, they're acoustic, they're sometimes even classical sounding. Steve's vocals on the album are pretty good too, and he also brings in some great guest vocalists and guest musicians too. So check this out if you're a fan of Steve Hackett or Genesis, or if you just like hearing great prog rock music with great guitar playing and classical music sprinkled in. That's The Circus and the Night Whale by Steve Hackett. At number 14, I've got Frost with Life in the Wires. This is neo-progressive rock with electronic, alternative, pop, and metal influences. Check out the track Life in the Wires Part 1 for a preview. Now, this is the 5th album by this supergroup from the UK. They featured Jem Godfrey, John Mitchell, who's been in It Bites, Arena, Asia, and more, and has a solo career known as Lonely Robot. Features Nathan King and Craig Blondell. And this is the first album by Frost that I've heard in full. I loved it. I loved the rhythms in Life in the Wires Part 1, in particular in the intro. It's the second track on the album. And then the album has as its second last track an almost 16-minute prog epic called Life in the Wires Part 2, which is also a great track. The musicianship of the players in Frost is excellent. The album is long, though. It's an hour and 25 minutes long, but it has a lot of variety, and every song is solid, so it doesn't feel too long. If that sounds good to you, check out Life in the Wires by Frost. At number 13, I've got Isbjorg with Falter Endure. This is neo-progressive rock with alternative and even a little bit of metal influence in there. Check out the track Solitaire for a preview here. This is the second album by Isbjorg. They're a Danish band. And I heard the opening track of this album, Ornament, ahead of time. I liked it. That's what made me check this album out. My favorite track is Solitaire. There's some nice odd time rhythms, and the melody and vocals are just beautiful and emotional. And I know I love this one by Isbjorg because shortly after listening to Falter Endure, I really wanted to listen to their debut album, so I checked that out, and I also love that too. So I'll be keeping my eye on this band, Isbjorg. Great prog band that I will be watching in the future. If that sounds good to you, check out Falter Endure by Isbjorg. Now we are at number 12, and that honor goes to Circuline with their album Core, or if you spell it out, Core. And check out Tempus Horribilis for a preview track for this one. It's a great track. This is Circuline's third album. They're an American band. And Tempus Horribilis is what I heard first. It was the early release single, and I really enjoyed it. It's unique and quirky sounding. The whole album consists mostly of female lead vocals, but there's male backing vocals. And I also saw they feature Shelby Logan Warren of Kairos on bass. And since I really enjoyed the Kairos album from earlier this year as well, that got me even more excited for this album by Circuline. The whole album's reminiscent of 70s prog rock like Yes and King Crimson, but features female vocals, so also good for fans of Renaissance. It also reminds me a bit of the release from earlier in the year by Circe Link and Christian Nesmith. So if you like that, check out Core by Circuline. At number 11, I've got Dilemma with The Purpose Paradox. This is neo-progressive rock with pop and metal influences. Check out the track Sanctuary for a preview of this. And it's the third album by this Dutch band. Dilemma features Christopher Gildenlow on bass, formerly of Pain of Salvation. Their single, I Am Neon, was great. That's what made me check this out. And from the description in that YouTube video, they very accurately described their sound. That track in particular shows the heavier, sometimes even gentish side of Dilemma, which they say is perfect for fans of bands like Dream Theater, Toto, Vola, Marillion, Neil Morse bands, Spock's Beard, Threshold, Pineapple Thief, Porcupine Tree, Frost, and IQ. Most of the other songs on this Dilemma album aren't as heavy as I Am Neon, and they don't incorporate any gent. They're more accessible, catchy, poppy, arena rock anthems that have progressive compositions with some odd time signatures and excellent musicianship. The track Allies features Derek Sherinian, the amazing former keyboard player of Dream Theater. Thunder is a solid, catchy ballad, and the closing track Outer Light is a prog epic that's 15 and a half minutes long. So if that sounds good to you, check out The Purpose Paradox by Dilemma. Now at number 10, I've got Elmir with Stranger Skies. This is symphonic progressive rock. Check out the track Another World for a preview. This is Elmir's fourth album. They're an Italian band, but their lyrics are in English. And if you're a fan of Genesis, but want to hear something even more cinematic and symphonic, I think you'll like this. Stranger Skies is a great tune that has flute parts that made me think of Jethro Tull. It has awesome sections with 5 beats per bar, awesome key changes and modulations. Another World's another great song, probably the best on the album. It calls back to the song Northwards by repeating the line from it, "In the end, we'll find our way to the North Pole." If that sounds good to you, check out Stranger Skies by Elmir. Now at number 8 and 9, I'm going to mention the same guy twice because he put out multiple great albums this year. So at number 9, I've got Neil Morse with The Restoration Joseph Part 2. And this is a progressive rock opera with musical theater influences. Check out the track The Argument to hear awesome a cappella vocals. Or if you want to hear a great rockin' tune, just check out the track I Hate My Brothers. It's hard to count how many albums Neil Morse has made because he's been in Spock's Beard, he's been in Transatlantic, and the Neil Morse Band. He's released 2 albums under a project called D. Virgilio Morse and Jennings, and he has many solo albums in different styles, from singer-songwriter albums to prog albums, and some are even Christian worship music, which I'm not as interested in personally, but he does a lot of different things. And this album is a concept album based on the story of Joseph, like what was told in Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical called Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I liked part 1 from last year, but I also think that part 2 is slightly better than part 1. It is close. My favorite moments are where they channel Gentle Giant and do syncopated a cappella vocals like on The Argument. And really the only downside I have with this album, I'm just not a fan of when the lyrics go too far into the Christian God themes, but I understand that it's part of the story of Joseph, so I look past that. And at number 8, I've also got Neil Morse, but this time it's with a new band, Neil Morse and the Resonance. And their debut album of this band called No Hill for a Climber. This is more symphonic progressive rock. It doesn't have as much of the musical theater or opera influences as the last Neil Morse album that I talked about. Check out the song Eternity in Your Eyes for a preview of this one. And most of what Neil Morse is involved with is excellent, so I was looking forward to this, and I was happy that it was even better than the 2 Joseph albums he did, which were also excellent. This album, No Hill for a Climber, starts with a 21-minute long prog epic, Eternity in Your Eyes. It ends with a 29-minute prog epic, No Hill for a Climber. Then it has 3 shorter songs in the middle. Every song is excellent. Again, I'm not as into the lyrical content from Neil Morse because he does go a bit into the Christian themes for my liking, but the music here is just undeniably excellent, so I give him the pass on lyrics not being to my taste. Now let's look at number 7. And this one, I'm not sure if it should count because it came out in a box set last year with book 1 and book 2, but I've got the Chronicles of Father Robin with their album, The Songs and Tales of Eroia, book 3, Magical Chronicle Ascension. So this is the 3rd part of a 3-part trilogy, and it's symphonic progressive rock with folk influences. Check out the track Magical Chronicle for a preview. So I guess this is their 3rd album. Part 1 and 2 came out last year and were both excellent. And it came out, part 1, 2, and 3 could be bought together as part of a box set in 2023. So I guess it technically came out there, but it wasn't available on streaming. Part 3 wasn't available on streaming until 2024. Only part 1 and 2 were. And part 3 is great. It's excellent, just like part 1 and 2. It's a bit more on the folk side compared to the first 2 parts, so they all had folk influence. And this part uses a lot more acoustic instruments and vocal harmonies. If that sounds good to you, check out this part 3 of The Songs and Tales of Eroia by Chronicles of Father Robin. At number 6, I've got Pure Reason Revolution with Coming Up to Consciousness. Great progressive rock album, even some metal influences on here. Check out the track Useless Animal for a preview. This is the 6th album by Pure Reason Revolution. They're a great band from the UK, and I like their last album, Above Cirrus. I like pretty much all their albums are good. I enjoyed the single Dig Till You Die. It's just great atmospheric music, male and female vocals here. They start out soft, but then they bring in some heavy parts, If you're a fan of Pink Floyd, Riverside, and Porcupine Tree, I think you'll like this one by Pure Reason Revolution. The whole album continues the style. It's excellently composed, performed, and produced. And this album is what made me finally go back and finish listening to Pure Reason Revolution's whole discography, which even before this album, I kind of had been wanting to do that since I liked everything I heard from them. Useless Animal is a song that can bring me to tears. It's about putting your dog down, and it's maybe the best song from this year that came out to just like, if you want to get teary-eyed, it's the most emotional and saddest song to cry to from this year, Useless Animal by Pure Reason Revolution. And at number 5, I've got Dirt Poor Robins with Firebird. This is kind of like a progressive rock opera, but it's got pop, indie, alternative, and post-rock influences. Check out the song To the Heights to hear a really catchy, poppy chorus. It's just an awesome banger of a track. This is the 8th album by Dirt Poor Robins. They're an American band. And I heard their last album, Queen of the Night. I thought that was excellent as well. Their last album was also prog rock, but it had this show tunes and musical theater vibe to it. So if you like bands like The Deer Hunter, you might like Dirt Poor Robins. This album, Firebird, is similar to their last one, but it has more 80s pop influence in here and intense guitar solos thrown into their progressive rock and musical theater rock opera vibes. There's amazing vocals on here, especially I like the female vocals. They're a real standout. The male vocals are good as well. The opening track, Political, is amazing. Fever Dream and Beauty Will Save the World are amazing as well. To the Heights is probably my favorite. So if that sounds good to you, check out Firebird by Dirt Poor Robins. Now we are at number 4 with Big Big Train and their album, The Likes of Us. This is a great progressive rock album by a great progressive rock band. Check out the track Love is the Light for a preview. This is Big Big Train's 15th album. They're a great band from the UK, and they have a new vocalist on this one after the unfortunate passing of David Longdon. The new vocalist, Alberto Brevin, does a great job here. They also have other members of the band singing, so he's not the only voice you hear on the album. Beneath the Mass is a great prog epic. And yeah, the only complaint I have with the album, it does start to sound a little safe and samey. Every song is emotional, kind of singer-songwriter stuff where it feels like the song's kind of put through a progifier to make it proggy, but they just do it so well. The band's truly amazing, and I look forward to hearing what they do next. That's The Likes of Us by Big Big Train. Check it out. And number 3, we've got Jordan Rudess with Permission to Fly. Great progressive rock album. Check out the track The Alchemist for a preview. This is the 18th solo album by Jordan Rudess, the amazing keyboard player, well known for his time with, he's currently still in Dream Theater and the supergroup Liquid Tension Experiment. And this is my second favorite solo album from him. I think my favorite would be 2019's Wired for Madness. This one is similar to that, but he enlisted the help of a great vocalist, Joe Payne, a great drummer, Darby Todd. The second single he released, Shadow of the Moon, is a nice softer song. And overall, the album features great keyboard playing, as you can expect from Jordan Rudess, cool progressive compositions, but also some nice softer ballads, great vocals from Joe Payne. And the vocals on this album by Jordan Rudess are probably the best out of any Jordan Rudess solo album. But I somehow just slightly prefer the composition style he had on 2019's Wired for Madness. But I still give this my second favorite Jordan Rudess solo album, Permission to Fly. And number 2, I'm actually putting an EP by Toe Hider called Toad Hirer. It's progressive rock with some metal influences, and it's an EP that consists of just one 19-minute epic prog track. And it's too bad it's just an EP, because I think if he did a full-length album with, say, 2 or maybe even 3, if we were lucky, epic tracks of this caliber, it could be an album of the year contender. Michael Mills of Toe Hider did 12 EPs in 12 months project, and this is my favorite of those. And it's the one that reminds me most of my favorite album by Toe Hider, which is I have little to no memory of these memories from 2022. I'd say Toad Hirer by Toad Hider is the best EP I've heard in years, probably since Thank You Scientists Plague Accommodations from 2021. And now my number one progressive rock album of 2024, remember not counting progressive metal, is Collapse the Wave by Is. Great symphonic progressive rock. Check out the track There's Hope for a preview. This is the 10th album by Is. They're a great American band. I discovered them by stumbling upon them, seeing them live. They blew me away. It was in Toronto, and it was at it was somebody's birthday party in a bar where they like rented the bar, and they had the band there playing, and I didn't really know the person whose birthday it was, but I was friends of someone who was friends with the opening band, so we kind of got in as being friends of the opening act that opened for Is. And yeah, Is is just amazing. If you like Yes, I think you'll like Is. Is has male and female vocals here. They have busy bass guitar, nice keyboards and guitars. They sometimes have some parts that are a bit darker than Yes and come a bit closer to King Crimson. There's Hope starts with King Crimson vibes and has a great mix of male and female vocals. If that sounds good to you, check out Collapse the Wave by Is. And since you've made it to the end of my list, I'm going to reward you with 10 rapid fire honorable mentions. So my number 21 through 30 favorite progressive rock albums of 2024. Sycophant with their self-titled debut album. Intimate Plan with A Surfacing Life. Amscray with Die Happy. Leorme with Il Leone e la Bandiera, great Italian prog band. Ritual with The Story of Mr. Boggs Part 1. Circe Link and Christian Nesmith with Arcana. The Pineapple Thief with It Leads to This. Semiramis with La Fine Non Esiste. Plantoid with Terrapath, and Mesa Verde with All Is Well. Now, all of these albums are so close, like it was pretty hard to order them. They're all pretty much my favorite prog rock albums in my heart from 2024. I would love listening to any album on this list and hope to listen to them again. There's always so much great music coming out. It's hard to keep listening to all the stuff we love while also checking out new stuff. But if you like metal, rock, and prog, and you like this list, let me know what your favorites of 2024 were down in the comments. Let me know what you think of my list, and if you check out any of the albums that I recommended here and you like them, definitely let me know. I like knowing that I've turned people on to new music. And check out my channel. I'll be posting probably my top 10 albums of December 2024 soon, because I think a lot of great music came out in December of 2024 that people kind of forget about or miss because they've already made their albums of the year videos. So I'm going to give some love to some albums that came out in December, give my top 10. I'm going to make a video on what are some of the albums coming out in January 2025 that I'll be checking out. And of course, I really need to get around to doing my actual top 25 albums of 2024 overall, which will, of course, feature a lot of progressive metal, as that's my main favorite genre. So if you like the sounds of that, hit that subscribe button to stay in the loop of when I release my videos, and stay tuned for the next one. Peace out.